Hey, everybody. So I have Zack Jensen here, who is actually one of the original members of Acquisition Ace, now going back 6 months or so. And Zack, basically from day one that he was in the group, he kind of took it by storm. He was always on the calls. He was always getting out there looking at deals. And just to give everyone the lowdown, so after about 5 months or so, Zack was able to close on his first deal, which was an accounting firm. We're going to get into that in a second and ask him how he found it and how the deal's going and break down the numbers, and so that we can really get a good idea of how this all works. So Zack, I appreciate you jumping on. And why don't you start out telling everybody a little bit about yourself and your background, and then what made you interested in getting going after a business acquisition?
Sounds good. Yeah. So thanks for chatting with me, Ben. This has definitely been a wild journey. I definitely didn't anticipate me being here. If you asked me a year ago what I'd be doing, I'd probably tell you, still working as an engineer. Before this, I was a software engineer of sorts, working on a few different projects, and had a few losses in the realm of investing. I invested in oil and gas, which turned out to be a scam. I invested in some real estate, which, with some syndications that, as you know, right now, real estate's not doing super well. So I thought, what's an asset class that you can put, normal people money behind, right? Because to make it in real estate, you got to have millions and millions of dollars to really start seeing big cash flow. That's originally what led me to these more risky asset classes. So I was looking for something where, hey, how can I get a good return on my dollar, can have control over my dollar, and actually see a meaningful return? And that led me to explore this realm of small business. So that's when I, got really active online, got on Twitter, found your group and kind of the awesome stuff you were doing. I really liked you because you were just really transparent, weren't very hypey, kind of let everyone know, hey, here's what it's going to be, but here are some amazing things you can do with it if you really put the work in. So I took your word for it and put the work in, and here we are today. So
awesome. I'm pumped, man. It's really cool. Like one of probably the best thing about Acquisition Ace and the group and the members that we have is people coming on board. And like you were successful before this. Like you weren't like someone who's never done anything in your life. But to take that and then move it from what you were currently doing in kind of the tech world, and then move it over to something that's, as you were just talking about before we jumped on the call, like fax machine type business. And then and you're ready now only a month or so into your acquisition, and you already you were talking about, we'll get into it, some of the changes that you're making. So that's what gets me the most excited, is when there's people like you and others that are jumping on and getting these things done. So okay, so now let's talk about the deal. So you got in the group, you went after it, like I mentioned before, you got an accounting firm. So why don't you tell everybody about the accounting firm that you got? What was the price? What was the cash flow on the deal? And why did you like it?
Yeah. So I acquired the firm for about 2.1 million. There was about 1.2 million in EBITDA on that. Usually the EBITDA is going to be a little lower. The reason for that is the seller was doing a lot of work. Maybe we can get into when we talk about the changes, kind of why that is and mitigating against that. But I like the deal because we had over 6,000 clients, lots and lots of just sticky revenue on the recurring side, had about 20,000 of revenue per month coming in just from purely bookkeeping. No work, right? So to be a CPA means you get to do audit work and kind of a few other things. And I'm not a CPA, so that wasn't a fit for me. I wanted to buy an accounting firm where I didn't need any credentials, and this was one of them. The CPA in charge, or the EA rather, in charge of the firm only has that EA credential. So that's why I liked it, because I didn't need any credentials. I could jump in. It was the right size for me to make a lateral movement in my career, because I was a similar amount in my job, so to speak. So I wanted to not lose out on earnings when I moved over to this small business game. So that was kind of why I wanted to get into it. And as far as accounting firms, I mean, you've already talked to this so many times, but just recession resistance, sticky revenue, boring, oftentimes lacking basic systems. Like when I bought this business, there wasn't even a website that was functioning. So
perfect.
Like the Google profile wasn't claimed. It was like, do you own this business on Google? And I'm like, well, hopefully. So
I love that. Yeah, I'm sure that's fixed by now, especially with your background.
Yep.
So you said like 2.1, it was doing over $1 million in EBITDA, but the reason for that, as you mentioned before, was that the owner was pretty much doing all the work. And so obviously that is not what you want to do. And I guess you can also tell everyone about, like, you don't live where this business is actually located. So tell them where you live, where you bought it, and why that is something that's not crazy and why you can make it work.
Yeah, so I'm currently chatting with you in sunny Carlsbad, California, here in San Diego. My business is in snowy Virginia, Manassas, Virginia. I walk in about 20 minutes. So all the way across the United States. That wasn't scary for me just because I come from this tech world where everyone works kind of remotely in different countries, even like we got staff in India, Philippines, Pakistan, that type of thing. So it wasn't really a big mental jump for me to think that I could run this remotely. Staff meet with clients in person, but we also have clients that come over Zoom and this sort of thing. So it wasn't a huge jump for me to buy a business not where I live. I flew out there for 2.5 weeks when I bought it. I just got back a few days ago, and I'll probably fly out there maybe once a quarter. I might go back because of an IT related issue, but once that IT related issue is resolved, once a quarter is the cadence that we have right now, and that's more than appropriate. I mean, to be honest, I could probably get away with once every half a year. It's more just for me to come to the employees, buy them dinner, let them know, hey, I care about you, and by the way, did we kind of XYZ housekeeping items get resolved? And cast vision as well to the employees. So kind of show them where we're going. And that's usually best done in person. So other than that, there's no business function that I need to do on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. And just to reiterate that for everyone in the audience, so Zack lives in California. He bought a business in Virginia. And right now, after he acquired it, he's gone there, a good amount of time just because in the beginning, he's trying to learn as much as possible, trying to implement some changes that he feels are very important. But once this is stabilized, his goal is probably at that point, once a quarter, maybe flying out to Virginia, having a good time with his employees, showing them that he still cares about them. But from the day-to-day basis type work, Zack is not going to be doing returns. He's not doing 1040s. He's not doing anything of the sort. He is just making sure the business is continuing to do what it's supposed to do and then collecting cash flow on it. So the second part of that is the seller, is he still involved with the business? And tell people how that arrangement worked out.
Yeah, so going back to the EBITDA, the quite massive for the revenue EBITDA, the seller was doing a large part of the work himself. We have about 8 employees, but do our admin, and then we've got about 5 accountants, including him, and then there's me now. So he was doing most of the accounting work and the tax work. In tax prep and accounting, a large part of the work can be delegated to other folks offshore for data entry and stuff. And you can do, as the tax preparer, simply checking their work, making sure that it's correct. So we're moving towards that model. Once we have him as kind of like a tax manager type person, hire several tax managers and relieve that key man risk from the business. But the reason why he is where he is just because, to borrow from the E-Myth, he's more of a technician, right? He's not an entrepreneur or a manager, which is often the case for accountants, right? This is not unique to my deal. A lot of accounting firms grow to this size and kind of plateau because the owner of the business is doing all the work, meeting with the client, setting the pricing, doing just all this necessary, but kind of work that could be delegated that he hasn't. And just because that's not really his mindset. So he's extremely technically competent. I've gotten my tax return amended because my old accountant made mistakes. So he saved me a lot of money already. So it's a great technical person I got as my seller. Been in the business for more than 20 years. So super smart. He just didn't make that entrepreneurial shift. And it takes someone like in our group who has that mindset to come and kind of allow these people to grow their business past where they're at right now. So it's not just unique to my deal. A lot of businesses that we see are just folks that are technicians who were good at what they did, started making lots of money, and then kind of plateaued. So that's where you and I come in.
So then looking forward into the year ahead. So now that obviously that $1+ million EBITDA, obviously the seller's staying on, you're hiring more people because the goal is obviously you're not doing the work. So you're having other people coming on board to scale this. So what do you think in terms of how you're projecting 2024 to look? What are you looking at in terms of after your debt service and everything else for taking the loan on to buy this business? What are you looking at in terms of what you think the cash flow will look like?
Yeah, so I've modeled out a few different scenarios. I'll just give you the base case one. So this year, because we're in 2023 December, the revenue was about 1.8 million. We're going to do a 25% price increase, which is very modest, right? For comparison, for our service, we charge about $150 or so, and H&R Block charges $500 for a comparable service. So the pricing firm, he hasn't touched prices in a long time. A side note about that as well, he didn't know what he was charging most clients. So that's actually part of next year is just to figure out what the heck we've been charging people because it's all been in his head. So I'm like, all right, take what you do in your head, multiply it times 125 or 1.25, and we're charging that next year. So we're going to do about 2.25 in revenue next year. That's going to, after my salary of $150,000, $120,000, after his salary of $200,000, after debt service of about $250,000, including principal and interest, and then all the payroll and all that stuff, we'll net about $1,050,000 in profit. So it's nasty.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
I
nuts.
put up 235K plus about 15 and call it 15 in legal fees. So
Yeah.
that'll pour banger on the equity.
That's disgusting. I'm looking at, so you basically put all in, you're at 250 all in with everything that you put towards the search as well.
Yep.
And you're paying yourself 120K W-2 salary. That's coming to you. On top of that, after everyone else is paid, there's still $1 million that should be coming in at the end of it. And of course, you're not taking the whole $1 million, putting it in your pocket, but you're taking probably a very nice distributions on that and then making it to scale the business, right? So even if you took half of that, right? So let's say you took half of the $1 million, that's 500 plus the one. So let's say 620 off of, you're looking at easily 3 to 4xing your initial investment in the first year, which is
base case. I will highlight that in the bull case, it's much higher. The reason for that is there's services we were just simply not charging for. Accountants are famous for just giving away consulting for free or giving away
creep, right?
free.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, let's just charge people for the work we do, and then let's charge a little bit higher prices. And that's all I did. And now it's going to make this massive change. And then I also did some IT related things that just, things that were crazy. Like they were taking notes on paper and not recording their trainings. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to record all the trainings and I'll have a virtual assistant make notes so you guys can go back and revisit later. And they looked at me like I just created fire, so it was really satisfying just given my background and make those type of things. Yeah.
Well, and the craziest thing I want people to understand is that Zack is going to be making over the next year in his base case over $1 million, right? Let's just call it $1 million. And he's buying a business. So this business got to this level while still taking notes on paper and not having a working website and not charging even close to where they should be charging. And they still got to this point. So I want people to understand that this is not it's not like Zack just happened to find this amazingly profitable, no problem business and that's, he got lucky. No, this is, if anyone were to look at this business, they would see that there is probably 5 to 10 things immediately that need to change in order to scale. And still, with all of those issues, this thing is printing cash. And so that is what I want people to understand when we're getting into acquiring small businesses and especially in boring industries like this, that this is a great deal. This is an amazing first deal, but Zack can continually, after this first deal is done, let's say next year from now, he makes $1 million. Well, guess what Zack's probably going to do? Zack's probably going to go out there and he's going to look for the next one, right? And he's going to try to use the money from his first deal into the second deal and continue on until he gets to a point where he wants to sell it as a package or just sit back and get the cash flow. And so, I mean, this is very much attainable and again, I'm not trying to put it out there that this is easy because it's not, right? Zack put in a bunch of work over the last 5 months to find this deal. He went through, and we can do another time where Zack goes through all the obstacles he went through in terms of issues with brokers and issues sometimes with the banks and how to reconcile those to get the deal done. But Zack, the one thing that I knew with Zack and was that he was going to get it done. Regardless if this deal worked out or not, he was moving on to the next and he was going to get it done. So Zack, I'm super proud of you, man. I mean, it's a home run of a deal. And so what is that kind of next step? And then what was, if you were to tell anybody who's trying to get into this, give them any words of advice, what would you say to that?
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate the kind words. So to answer in order, next steps are just making our tech much stronger. Currently, all of our computers are just on like a local network. And if the main server computer goes down for whatever reason, the entire office can't do their work. So it's insane. I'm moving everything to the cloud and kind of making these changes that don't really sound very sexy, but they're going to just make things so much better for everyone. So, and because of my technical background, I find these obvious and they didn't. So that's kind of the next step. As far as advice I'd give people, I would be very, very cognizant of the fact that the seller is the most important person in a deal. You kind of gave an antidote of the problems with the broker and the banks and all this stuff. To get a good deal done, you and the seller need a really solid relationship. I'm thankful that when I'm a seller, we hit it off right away. The seller had probably 10 to 12 other people interested. He confessed to me after we got the deal done, but he said, no, I wanted you because I liked you and that we got along great. So my advice would be, once you do get in front of a seller, build that relationship, man. Get as good as far as you can on their good side as you can, because that's what's going to make the deal close at the end of the day.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't have said it better, man. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time today, Zack. We'll definitely check in with you. I'm really excited to see this coming year. I'd love to check in and see how things are progressing, especially once you get all of your different tech updates and kind of the systems and you do your price raise, I want to see how that goes. And I have a feeling, especially since their prices are so ridiculously low, that I have a good feeling they're going to have a very high retention regardless of that 25% price increase, because 25% on 125, $150 is still criminally low. So they're not going to find it anywhere else to do it at that price. That's awesome. All right, man. Well, I'll let you go. I know we both got to get out of here, but I appreciate your time, man. And I'll definitely be talking to you soon.
Likewise, brother. Thanks for the call.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye.